It's snowing harder.
Paul, you can stop praying for snow now.
Run up the car and throw it in the driveway, and it won't go back.
You and all the people that Marge tells to pray for snow, right, up at Beaver? Marge is always saying, pray for snow.
Welcome everyone to our Logan Municipal Council meeting for tonight. It is 5:30 and I'm calling this meeting into order. Our opening ceremony is by Judge Lee.
Thank you, Ernesto. For the opening ceremony today, I want to talk a little bit about some state symbols and the state constitution. Utah became a state after a really interesting struggle for statehood, and there's a PBS documentary about that struggle. But it was on January 4th, 1896, when Utah became a state in the Union. As part of being a state, there's a statute. It's in Utah Code 63G 1601. This code contains the state symbols. And sometimes I wonder if our legislature has enough time because they're always adding new state symbols. In fact, this year, one of the funnier ones was House Bill 137, where they added a state crustacean. We're a landlocked state, but we have a state crustacean. It's the brine shrimp, just so everybody knows. Apparently it's important for industry in Salt Lake, but there are other state symbols that I'm sure you may have heard of. The state bird is the seagull, which if you look on a biological kind of chart, it's actually a California gull. It's a little ironic, but that's the state bird that has to do with some pioneer history. But a few years ago, they added a state bird of prey in addition to the state bird, and that's the golden eagle. And when I go up around Bear Lake, I always look for a golden eagle, so that's the state bird of prey. Title 63G of the Utah Code has to do with government. That's how I remember. That's where you'll find the Government Immunity Act, that's where you'll find Government Records Access Management Act, and that's where you'll find these state symbols. Another state symbol is the state animal is the elk. We have a state cooking pot. It is the Dutch oven.
I do that.
We have a state hymn, which is Utah We Love Thee, which we also have a state song, which came after the state hymn, and that's Utah, This Is the Place. The Utah state tree is the quaking aspen. The Utah state vegetable is the Spanish sweet onion. Utah state, that's the state vegetable. The historic state vegetable is the sugar beet. The state winter sport is skiing, which I like to do, and last couple of weeks it's been great for skiing, but my wife has to dig me out of the powder when I fall down. So, the state work of land art is the spiral jetty. The state rock is coal. The state fruit is cherry. The state fossil is the Allosaurus. But the state dinosaur is the Utah raptor. The state emblem is the beehive. And another thing that they added just this last legislative session in House Bill 92 was the state mushroom, which is the porcini mushroom, which you can find in our mountains. And so if you put the porcini mushroom with the Spanish onion in the Dutch oven, then you've got all the state symbols in one spot. And so now around the campfire, you can tell people when they're cooking with a Dutch oven or cooking porcini mushrooms. I know Mr. Anderson is turning remotely. He might sell Spanish onions, but I don't know if you can get them planted this year in time. But anyway, those are the state symbols. But I wanted to read the preamble to the state constitution. It's like a prayer. It says, "Grateful to the Almighty God for life and liberty, we, the people of Utah, in order to secure and perpetuate the principles of free government, do ordain and establish this Constitution." And then the Declaration of Rights in Article 1, Section 1 of the Constitution says, "All persons have the inherent and inalienable right to enjoy and defend their lives and liberties, to acquire, possess, and protect property, to worship according to the dictates of their consciences, to assemble peacefully, to protest against wrongs, and petition for the redress of grievances, to communicate freely their thoughts and opinions, being responsible for the abuse of that right." So that's the first, in the United States Constitution, it'd be like the First Amendment, but in Utah it's the Declaration of Rights, Article 1, Section 1. And then I'm going to read the first verse of the state hymn, which came out in 1816. I'm not going to sing it. I want you to thank me for that. But it says, land of the mountains high, Utah, we love thee. Land of the sunny sky, Utah, we love thee. We haven't seen many sunny skies lately, but we are land of the sunny sky, at least in the summer. Far in the glorious west, throned on the mountain's crest, in robes of statehood dressed, Utah, we love thee. So in honor of our state, let's, when we become a member of the union, let's rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. Union is belong. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Judge Lee. Next in our agenda is the acceptance of our minutes and the approval of the agenda for tonight.
I will move acceptance of the minutes, artfully prepared by Teresa. Oh, Esley did them. Artfully provided by Esley and tonight's agenda.
I'll second that.
I'll second it. Oh,
I think I heard Mark second that. Right?
did we hear him?
Yes, that was me.
Okay. He's like not,
You sound very far away.
You guys are all looking up to the heavens like that's where it is.
I am far away. That's why.
there's only one microphone or something. It's like not working like it usually does.
I'll try a different one.
Just working on it.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll take a roll call. Mark? We're taking roll call to vote.
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Jeannie?
Aye.
Ernesto, aye. We've accepted and approved our agenda for tonight. A reminder for the community that is tuning in or that is here that we have our meetings the first and the third Tuesdays of the month at 5:30, and our next meeting will be April 18th. Now is the time for anybody in the audience who wishes to address the council or the mayor on any issues that are not part of the agenda for tonight. If you would like to make any comments, please come up to the mic and state your name and your place of residence, and take 3 minutes or less, please.
My name is Dr. Ralph Bear. I represent myself, two of my colleagues, Dr. Brent Craig, Dr. Jared Ferguson. We own a small dental building just east of Lowe's on 4th East. Our north property line is also the city limits. And building is about 6,400 square feet, set on 8/10 of an acre. Now, I brought this issue up to the city once before during COVID. It was a meeting where you could not respond. The city just said this was how things were going to be. So I wanted to kind of give it a little bit of real world perspective. The issue I'd like addressed, let me just read here for a minute. We're asking the city council, the city attorney, to revise the ordinance that unfairly charges small business owners for sewer charges during the summer irrigation season. Residential sewer charges are based on the average winter water usage, while large commercial users will be granted an exception. But small business owners who irrigate less than 1 acre are unfairly charged. Now, to remedy this situation, small business owners are asked to incur additional expense and install an irrigation submeter. That is, if you can find anybody that's willing to do it and able. I think it's basically an unfair ordinance where small business is unfairly targeted. Residential users are not so targeted. Big business irrigating more than an acre, they are not targeted. Small business, if you have less than an acre that you're irrigating, you're stuck paying for all the water that you use during the summer, even though it's going on your turf, you're billed a sewer charge for that. It basically boils down to about $1,700 a month for us during the summer irrigation season. Now, I brought this up to the council, like I said, during COVID, there was, no opportunity to provide feedback. And let me just give you a little bit of perspective. I talked to Rich Anderson and Paul Lindhart about, they say we need to do a rate study to determine whether the city can afford to make this change. Well, when I talked to Rich and Paul, they kind of said, well, it doesn't look like that's going to happen in the foreseeable future. So the only alternative then would be for us to install an irrigation meter, which probably is going to cost anywhere from, I don't know, $1,500 to $5,000. To me, that's kind of adding insult to injury. I think the statute is, from my perspective, it's discriminatory, it's illogical. Why do we perpetuate something that doesn't really make sense and penalize the business owner further to remedy a situation that I feel should be dealt with at the city council level? So my ask for the city council and for the mayor would be, let's fix this. Let's not kick this down the road a little further and say we'll wait and do a rate study. I just think it needs to be fixed. And I'm sure, I know Paul Lindhart, when I talked to him, he said he'd heard lots of complaints from other small business owners over the same issue. Now, is there anything I can add or questions you want to ask of me?
Again, we'll follow up with you on this. So,
And let me just give you, I put this package together May of 2020. That's got some stats in there as to how much it's costing us, the ordinance that needs to be addressed and so on. And I realize, tonight's not the night for this to happen, but I would really like the council to take some action on this, get the city attorney to draft something to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, City Council. This is not a complaint or anything more than an improvised apology to North Logan City Police Department. There was a domestic dispute that your officers responded to not too long ago, and it did result in me defending myself physically against two of your officers. And being a man that has been trained as a firefighter and gone through multiple gun safety courses, I did feel like my life was in some sort of imminent danger, and I did not mean to respond to your officers in that way. I also need to respond to one of your clerks that's here tonight. Heather, I do apologize for making you and your clerk uncomfortable in your house of work. It was in no way ill will, and I really do apologize. I appreciate that. And I do hope that you guys have a great day, and I bid you adieu.
Thank you.
Can I just add one thing that I should have mentioned? After I talked to Rich and Paul, I tried to get this irrigation meter installed. Bottom line was, the sprinkler guys, it's too complex for them to do it. Plumbers, they don't want to do it because they can't dig out the dirt, to get plumbing lines, in order to sprinkler lines, in order to, they just don't want to do it. And the excavators, the excavation contractors, they're too busy doing big jobs, messing around with something like this little issue that I've got. So, I tried all summer and I came away pretty frustrated, and so, just so you understand that as well. I really have tried to play by your rules. It's pretty tough. Thank you again.
Thank you. Looks like we can proceed with our agenda. Next up in our agenda are staff from the mayor and departments.
Great.
Report, sorry.
The first item tonight is, and we invited Judge Edwards here specifically for tonight, I'm going to read a citation, and then I would like to invite all of the members of the staff of the court that are here to come up, and I will present the award. It says, the clerks at Logan Justice Court, under the supervision of Heather Steinfeld, have successfully completed all the necessary training for clerk certification for 2022. The court operated for a portion of 2022 with only 3 clerks, and through all that change, Logan has maintained high percentages on their time to disposition. Judge Edwards believes the highly trained clerks provide better customer service and promotes confidence in the Logan Justice Court. The attention to detail, commitment to timeliness, hard work, and outstanding service of all the Logan Justice Court clerks that they can provide is worthy of recognition as Justice Court of the Year for the state of Utah. So congratulations. If anyone wants to snap a picture.
You gonna do it, Teresa?
18, 16.
All right, congratulations.
Who's the cap?
All right, so there you go, and congratulations.
I just, if I
We've
could just.
we've never been awarded that in the time that I've been on city council.
What, as the city council of the state, or?
No, we've never,
The courts.
the courts have never been awarded, have never received that award that I remember in the past. Do you know?
I think sometime years ago we did,
Okay.
when I was the Logan prosecutor in the court.
Okay.
But it was years ago, and I would like to thank my clerks and just thank the city council for the support, and also the police department for providing security. I don't know if you realize we have very serious offenders who end up coming to the justice court as well. Some people who have serious felony cases. Some of the type of questions my clerks have to answer. So we have a bailiff from the police department who, whenever things get tense, I don't know if you know Officer Lyle Davis, but he's very large in stature, and he works out and he can kind of move over and calm things down, de-escalate any issues we're having in court. And they do a very professional job of providing security. The Logan Court has 5 clerks, and I don't know if you know Zoe Edgewon, she's away now at spring break. We have Jennifer Joma, Allison Land, Tristan Romney, and Heather Steinfeld. And Heather kind of runs everything, makes sure that our books are right. But the kind of questions they have to answer sometimes are interesting. Like a parent will call and say, my son got a ticket, it's a DUI, can we just pay online? No, you have to appear in court for that. That's a mandatory appearance. Well, how old's your son? 28, you know, and parents are trying to help, and they have to explain all kinds of things. I had one call that was reported recently where somebody said, me and my wife have a custody agreement as part of our divorce that's being violated. Can I sue in small claims court to get my dog back? Those are really complicated legal issues, and those are the type of questions they have. And some of the answers, like with the DUI case, they're like, well, no, you have to come to court. Is it the big court down the street? Because that's where I have my felony and my divorce cases pending. No, it's the little court. What are you charged with? DUI and intoxication. Well, it's behind the liquor store. Oh, I think I can find that. So anyway, those are the things. So thanks to Heather and my staff for helping us get this reward. The courts looked objectively at which staff members across the state, and there were about 200 clerks that went to the conference, had completed their online training, and ours were way ahead of the others, even with the short staff. And our time to disposition numbers are objectively very good. Of course, sometimes that means we have to have trials quick, but we do that. They're minor things for the most part, but we do handle DUIs and domestic violence cases, which are serious. So I just want to thank the mayor for the award and the support of the court. And I'm going to put this up somewhere over by the court. Thanks for the council for their support.
Thank you very much.
Lee.
Thank you, thank you.
Good, the next item on the agenda is the Earth Day proclamation. It looks like Jack Green is here. Did you want me to just touch on that proclamation, or did you want to briefly mention it?
You can go ahead with it.
Okay, terrific. I have that right here. Again, we want to recognize that Earth Day has now become a worldwide event, and whereas Cache Valley hosts 323 species of birds, a wealth of trees, waterways, parks, and trails, and the city of Logan seeks to protect the Logan River watershed with native plants and mitigate the decline of the Great Salt Lake, and whereas the city of Logan supports projects which demonstrate and encourage energy conservation, sustainability, and the usage of renewable energy. Skipping down, this year, Earth Day will celebrate its 53rd anniversary of promoting the value of a healthy planet, which is our health and respect for all who live on it. So as Mayor of Logan, I proclaim Friday, April 21 as Earth Day in the city of Logan and urge our community to join in those efforts to help protect and preserve our environment. So again, Jack's very active in the Cache Community Connections and Bridgeland Audubon group that ask us to make that proclamation. So,
Can I add something?
yes.
So there actually is an event on Friday the 21st to celebrate Earth Day that Cache Community Connections is sponsoring, and Darren Perry is going to be speaking on preserving the earth. It is at 7, is that the right time? And it's being held at the LDS Chapel across from Logan High on 100 South and 200 West. So encourage everybody to come. There's other pieces, but the keynote speaker is Darren Perry.
Great, thank you. All right, item C, that commendation is going to be rescheduled until the 18th because Chief Hammer was unable to attend tonight. So next we'll move on to item 6D, which is an update from the Environmental Department. And Isa Hamoud, our Environmental Director, will provide that for the council and the public.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just want to update you what we're doing with the other cities in the county in preparation of our separation sometime in this year, hopefully. Smithfield City, Richmond, and Lewiston have signed an agreement with a company that is called Econowaste, and they're moving ahead with their plan to start.
Just, can you speak a little bit louder?
Yes, maybe this thing is.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to get too close, but
Okay.
anyway.
They're moving ahead with their plan to start collection of their own waste through their contractor sometime in July 1st this year.
Okay.
So that's going forward. We've agreed with them that they will buy the cans from us, all the 3 types, green, blue, and black. Lewiston doesn't have, Richmond doesn't have also green, but Smithfield has significant number of green cans. So we're going to surplus the cans to them, and the contractor is going to start collection. The contractor will also buy some of the commercial containers we have on some of the commercial facilities. Those are a significant amount of money per container, so the city is not going to buy those, but we will have to sell it to a contractor, and we will be serving them with those contractors, with those businesses. The other 15 cities, along with Cornish and Providence, will probably come off sometime in October this year, possibly. If that doesn't happen, it will be next year, April. They said it will be difficult to start collection in the middle of the winter, so they want us to wait until April if they don't start it in October. But we're trying to do everything we can to help them get going in October. They hired 13 of the cities that are under the consortium name Cache Waste Collection, hired an agreement with Waste Management, and Waste Management also have indicated to us that they want to buy the containers. These cities are not buying the containers, it's the Waste Management that will buy the containers and our trucks. And we're in the midst of negotiating those prices, what we will surplus it to them. We've given them prices and values. We're waiting to hear back from them. I learned this morning that Cornish, which I thought is going to be part of the consortium, is not. And I don't know what their plans are.
Well, that's interesting.
Yes. But I was told that they may be joining Smithfield, Richmond, and Lewiston, signed with that contractor on the north to get an agreement so that they will also be falling into that category in that area. Providence decided to do their own. They will be buying trucks. They will do their own garbage. But they ask a little bit more time so that they can buy trucks, but they're also prepared to buy our containers so that they can service their citizens. I checked with Kimber this morning. We have a little bit of challenge here that the agreement we have with them will expire in June this year. They also given notice to the other cities, the county. So the cities have an agreement with the county, and we have an agreement with the county. And if the county comes off in October, I'm not sure how we can continue to service Providence with that situation. So we might have to get into a separate agreement with them temporarily until they have their trucks and ready to go. That also is the case for the county and the other cities, because their agreement technically expires in June, but we can, with mutual understanding, extend the same terms of the agreement to service them until October. So those are the things that we might have to work from here on between now and June. But then again, everything else seems to be fine. We're looking into a rate study. We want to let you know that also, so that our rates will reflect our cost of services after the separation occurs, whether it is at the landfill when they bring it to us, or what we charge to our own citizens get involved in. Those are the activities. Do you have any questions?
Did you also want to update the green waste charges?
Thank you. Yes. For the lack of sufficient personnel, I have approached the cities and asked them if they can not have the green waste drop sites. Particularly Smithfield, Lewiston, and Richmond said, we're not going to ask our contractor to provide. It doesn't make sense for you to bring containers to us now and then remove it in the middle of the winter. So yeah, it makes sense, don't bring it. But the other cities wanted to have the services, but we've told them we cannot, because we have significant vacancies in our equipment operator positions, because it's difficult to find good help these days. But at the same time, when we inform them that there's a potential that you could be laid off, which we have to disclose to them, good help is not going to stick around. They just said, you know. And we're hesitant hiring people that don't have any experience and allowing them to drive $300,000 equipment in our streets. So for that reason, we've agreed that we will refund the 50 cents we charge them for green waste, but they can still bring to us green waste, and we will accept it free until we separate. After that, it's a different case, and it's one of the reasons why we are also going to do a rate study and see what we're going to charge for green waste.
Okay.
Because we now have a very expensive compost facility that we're building.
And can you, just on that topic, when, you know, I know Mark in the atmosphere over there will be interested to know when there will be biosolid fertilizer or compost available for people to.
We are actually putting mix it with the biosolids right now as we speak.
Okay.
So, since
Yes, I'd also like to know when I get to use the chipper.
Said something about a chipper.
I know he did, but I don't know what.
Yeah, I want to use that chipper, like the big one. Sounds like so much fun.
Your city wants to use a chipper?
Yeah, we'll be happy to give you some experience to that.
Talk to risk management first.
Good idea.
Especially with
I look forward to it. I look forward to it. So.
But that compost has been really going out of the door quickly.
So we're already selling it?
Yes. Farmers are very interested all the way from Idaho. They're coming with big trucks and they want to haul.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Interesting.
Council, one of the reasons we thought it was important to have this discussion about the sale of the cans and some of the equipment is because we think this is in line with the spirit of what our resolution was for. Currently, we can sell to other cities, but we can't necessarily sell to private entities, any kind of equipment. However, in this case, with what we're selling it to the cities, and they're selling it to the contractor who's going to provide those services to them. We're just taking the shortest route to that end goal. We believe it's appropriate. We just want to make sure you're fully aware of what's happening.
And they're not marking it up from what we sell it to them
Exactly.
to what the, okay.
This should be a direct sale, and it's at the price that we believe is the fair market value, not a dime less and not a dime more.
And
there's
this-
not actually a transition to the cities and then
There's
to waste management, for example. It's going to go
It's
directly to.
Directly to waste management,
Right.
so that they can continue to provide the services we have provided, and they are the contractor that they selected. That's why this is the exception, however, we believe it follows the spirit of what our purchasing resolution was passed for.
But again, we just wanted to make everyone aware in the public meeting of what we were doing and why, so.
There are no legal consequences of doing that.
No, I mean, there's nothing in our code that expressly forbids that, so.
And so once the transition has happened, they will own their cans, they will have a separate service, and we are wishing them well.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right. Thank you for that report. Appreciate that. The next report we have is item E, City Flood Watch preparations, and we'll have Paul Lindhart, the Public Works Director, give us some depressing news.
No.
It's still snowing, just so you know.
That's what I do, I bear bad news. I was here 2 weeks ago, we talked a little bit of update on numbers, that sort of thing. I can make it very short by saying everything is worse.
Tony Grove is gonna have snow till next September, right?
Correct. I believe the number I reported last time for Tony Grove was 135% approximately of our seasonal.
It's over 13
Snowpack.
feet.
We're currently, as of, I looked a couple hours ago, 159%. The Bear River Range overall is 172%.
We're the lowest in the state.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna give a little bit of good news. The southwest region of the state is 331% right now, so we'll take 172. Since 2 weeks ago, we have dispatched snowplows 5 times in the last 2 weeks. And the other update I was gonna give, Logan, Utah, this season, I don't have, numbers aren't reported yet for today and last night. But with that storm, we should be about 100 inches of snowfall in Logan. That's just over 8 feet of snow we received this season. Sandbags are still available at our field site down at the service center for the library for residents to go get. We've kept that stocked all the time. We haven't had a lot of people come get it since then.
Is there a cost on those?
No,
Okay.
no, we've got up to 10 sandbags available for each resident for their kind of localized flooding if they have anything at their own property. We've been working with several neighborhood representatives, emergency preparedness folks. We're probably going to set up some days to go to certain neighborhoods, and they will provide labor to help fill sandbags for their neighborhood specifically. We've got some of those set up. We've been reviewing certain flood plans with Craig Humphreys, our emergency manager, our Dry Canyon Dam emergency plan. We've been reviewing all those just to blow the dust off and make sure they're all up to date. And we've got emergency action plans in place. I don't know if there's anything else with river other than lots more snow and lots more water to come. Another update that I wanted to give, as you've seen in front of you, we'll be making a public service announcement, I believe later this evening, released it
Tomorrow morning, I think.
Tomorrow morning. That are traditionally, we've held a curbside spring cleanup where folks can bring green waste to the curbside, make piles out there, we come around and clean it up. Normally, on our normal calendar, we would be starting that this week to give you some perspective when we usually do it. It's not feasible to do with the snow that's out there, obviously, and with the flooding preparations and hopefully not a response we anticipate. We don't know when we'll be able to do that sort of curbside green waste pickup effort. So this year, we will not be doing any curbside spring cleanup with green waste throughout the city. There's still options to the city, to the residents, business owners. Green waste can be taken to the Logan landfill, as always. For residents, that's free to drop that off. Secondly, the green waste bins will still be available through the environmental division, as traditionally has been.
The green cans.
The green cans, correct. And third, we are hoping and planning to have some drop sites throughout the city. We've identified 3 or 4 parking lots, likely at parks, where I don't want to give dates now because
Stuff will start appearing.
Because I don't know, last night or 2 nights ago, we thought we could have done it, but I don't know when the snow will be gone. So, but we'll get probably a 1 to 2 week window where folks could bring green waste to those parking lots, drop it off, and we will pick it up and haul it down to the landfill. Again, dates to be determined, but that's where we're at with Flood Watch 2023. We need a cool name.
So is there,
and green waste.
so is there a way, Paul, for us to encourage citizens to not put things into the street that will impact the stormwater, that will impact the drains and, all the places where the stormwater goes under the street? And because if those get blocked or a lot of junk goes in those, that causes more problems for you.
It definitely does. As far as encouraging them not to, I guess I'm not sure that we will be putting this announcement out through every channel we can, neighborhood committee, to not put green waste at the curbside.
It will not be picked up this year. It won't.
And just putting it in the curb is against city ordinance, so.
Well, I know that, but people do it all the time.
Well, and the other thing that we're asking is like, once people have it loaded, I mean, we do have the drop sites if people prefer that. But it's like, if you already have it loaded in a truck or a trailer, it's free at the landfill. It would be a huge help to us if you just take it all the way to the landfill. Again, one of the lanes at the landfill is the green waste lane, so you don't have to wait in line to pay a fee or anything. You pull up to the scale house. They just need to check and make sure you have only green waste. They'll wave you through and you just dump it. So it shouldn't be a lengthy process. It doesn't cost any money. So again, particularly this year when our crews, I mean, they're spending a lot of time out walking the riverbanks. If they see, stumps, branches, trees that are coming down that could cause, a little mini dam to cause flooding, they're cleaning that out. Again, they'll be going around to the storm drains, making sure to keep those clean. I mean, what other things? This will be just a regular occurrence where we need to focus our efforts on the next, 3 weeks. It usually takes, a good 3 weeks to get through the whole city on spring cleanup.
We typically schedule 2 weeks, and we end up being 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, 3 to 4.
And to give you an idea, it takes our entire street division, about half the water division, quite a bit of environmental and parks folks both all help out with it for that 4-week period. So it's huge.
And we apologize because we know it's a service that citizens enjoy, but we just think it's a much higher priority to focus on flooding prevention activities. So that's the reason for it this year.
And snow removal.
I know, they're still plowing.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, there's, I think, 4 or 5 on the road right now, after 16 hours solid today.
Paul,
Thank you for what you do.
I know there's two factors with regard to flooding. One is the amount of snow or snowpack, and we know that that's exceeded all expectations. But the other is the rate of temperature increase. Okay, do we know, maybe this is a crazy question, is there kind of a thread the needle scenario that makes it the best that will work, or do we know that it's just not gonna work? Because, I mean, next Monday or so, it's gonna be 60+ degrees here. That's a pretty good jump.
That starts the bad scenario.
That is.
The 10-day forecast does start to show 60s at the very end. I don't have an answer how to thread.
I don't even know if you can calculate. I'm just wondering if there's some way to look at, I've seen that curve, you know, where you look at it and say, okay, we have just
Right. And
gone
looking
over the
today,
cliff.
I don't see a scenario where we get below areas of concern.
So we do
I don't
have,
think it's possible.
we do have a serious problem.
Personally, yeah. I think the
Tom, I have an answer for you, but you'll have to just call me after the meeting's over.
will do. I think the best case is to rain as fast as possible without major flooding. That's what we need at this point. Is to bring it down, because every level, low level, mid, and high, are all well above.
Oversaturated, saturated,
So
yeah.
The best is to just stay really cold until next November.
well, I hadn't considered that. You're right.
Where the snow never melts.
We'll pray for that.
So if you see your storm sewer in front of your house or when you're out walking clogged, what is the most appropriate way to make sure that that gets cleared? My husband was poking sticks in and
Sure.
stuff over the weekend because there were areas, but what, if we see one in our neighborhood?
Yeah,
what
if you
should
see
we
a
do?
storm drain, an inlet, a grate covered with leaves or branches, just rake them up, and the best is to put them up behind the curb and gutter on the park strip so they're not gonna go back in. Our crews are going every day right now, except today. When they're not plowing, going around and cleaning them. I actually had a group call me on Monday. On Earth Day, they wanted to do a service project, and just said, can we just go around our neighborhood and clean out curb and gutters and storm drains? I said, that'd be great. We've been doing that very actively for this reason, especially when it was raining 2 weeks ago. But there's curb and gutter we haven't seen since November.
Yep.
And so when those start getting exposed, yeah, anything to do to help clear those with pitchforks, shovels, and just throw them up on the side, and our crews do come and pick them up. I mean, best yet would be to put in a garbage can or
Your greenway?
dispose of it yourself. But yeah, anything to keep those clear would be
Usually it's
beneficial.
not green waste.
There's things that we encourage regularly, like sump pumps should not be connected to a sanitary sewer. They could end up at the wastewater treatment plant, and our sanitary sewer lines can't handle that surge. They should be connected to a storm drain, a curb and gutter, or an open space where it can, say with roof drains, those sort of things. To get that word out is very helpful.
We had a flooding a number of years ago, and it surcharged the sewer station. Obviously, we have a whole new setup down there. Are we protected? Is that in jeopardy still? Can we still use the ponds, I guess?
Yes, we can still use the ponds, right, Isa?
For
For
overflow.
stormwater management?
And we have sandbags positioned to be ready if we need them at the lift station to kind of direct. Again, we've upgraded how they get from the lift station to the water treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant, but again, we're trying to prepare for all possibilities.
Yeah, correct. There have been upgrades, but the potential is always there, whether it be the collection system or the lagoons and headworks. Any
Great.
questions?
What are the biggest areas of concern as far as the city goes? Where are you planning on focusing a lot of your efforts? If you can share that, I don't know.
We probably focus mostly on the Logan River corridor when it comes to flooding potential. But if I had to pick one, that's probably it.
So Paul, this is really a technical question, but how high is the flow in the Logan River when they open the diversion? When they choose to open the diversion to let some of it off? Or do they just do it at a time, is it on a certain date
You're
instead
talking
of
at first dam? Or what diversion?
the Crockett diversion specifically?
I don't understand your question, sorry.
So if the flow of the river gets to be so high and so fast, if it's going at CFS, you know, certain CFS, does that trigger them to open that diversion so that it bleeds off some of that power of the water?
I think they opened it.
No, there's not a set point necessarily.
Okay.
But I actually have a meeting Monday or Tuesday next week with
Crockett,
Crockett Diversion, with the water master in Crockett, to discuss those sort of things. We're having those discussions with all the canal companies, if they can
Right.
relieve pressure.
right,
Obviously, you don't want to create anything downstream on the canals, and
exactly.
so we have to balance all that.
Right.
There's a lot of different, First Dam is operated by the Water Lab and USU for their power generation, and they'll often open that up. And so we're working with them to say, don't do that when the river's high. There's a lot of different influences we're communicating with to try and coordinate all those efforts.
Well, yeah, as it starts coming down, it's just gonna be it has to be a coordinated effort,
Yep,
so,
thank you.
thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, I just have one more item that's not on the agenda, but this has just come together in the last couple of days. I am very excited to announce that the former president of Ukraine will be visiting Logan on April 20th. So myself as mayor and the Wasatch group who is hosting him will welcome former Ukrainian President Viktor Yushchenko, who led the Orange Revolution and the push for democracy, to Logan on Thursday, April 20th. As a historian and as the president who began the fight for democracy and separation from Russia, Mr. Yushchenko will share a first-hand account of the current war in Ukraine. He'll be joined by Svetlana Miller, founder of To Ukraine with Love, and he's visiting Utah to raise awareness about the current situation in Ukraine. So it should be fascinating to hear from him. And this foundation, this To Ukraine with Love, began as a one-time airlift, and it is now one of the most active nonprofits providing emergency support to people on the ground in Ukraine. The organization feeds 5,000 people a day, builds 50 homes a month, these pre-manufactured homes which they give to people who have lost their homes. They deliver food and medicine to hundreds of disabled and elderly, and other things. So their website is www.toukrainewithlove.org. Again, it will be a benefit luncheon, but there's information on that on the website. So again, pretty exciting that we have, again, a leader in the pro-democracy movement. I mean, again, they're battling for democracy in that country, and so we will welcome him to Logan. I think there are maybe 5 or 6 stops in the western United States, and one of them is Logan, so kind of exciting. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Next is our council business items, and first up, we have our planning commission update. Jeannie.
Well, I was not here for planning commission, but the agenda was one item that was a request for a rezone, which will come to us eventually anyway. So we'll just wait to hear all about that when it's time.
Is that the one we've gotten letters on already?
Yes.
All right, next in our agenda, I'm gonna invite Wendy to come up to the mic. It looks like it is time to consider renewing an agreement that we have for the Cash Arts.
Yes, thank you. Wendy Hassan, Cache Valley Center for the Arts. And every other year, I have the privilege of coming to you and reapproving our local arts agency designation. It's a designation that either we or the Alliance for the Very Arts, which was housed at the center for the 40 years previous, have held for about 50 years. And it's an official designation with the state. There are about 14 different elements, of which we need to have 4 in order to be eligible, and then we also get this designation from the county. I actually love that we get both because we serve the county, we're funded by the county through reps and restaurant taxes, but you own the 3 buildings we manage, and so I feel it's especially important for us to come and be accountable to you. So I'm going to quickly, I actually have beautiful slides I will not show, so that we can not have to be here as long, but I'll just kind of go through each point and give you an indication of why I think we do, or maybe there are a few that we don't do but support that others do. The first is to provide access to diverse art forms that facilitate public participation. And we have everything from culinary arts to photography to ceramics to dance that happen at the space and conducted by about 50 different arts organizations. So it's not all work we do, but it's work that we actually house or through the Cache Valley Arts Directory encourage people to find elsewhere in the county. So we actually promote anything we can find in the county that helps people find an art form that appeals to them. Offer programs and services that include and support the cultural diversity and traditional arts of the community. We do this in a couple of ways. First, by providing a place. We actually had an ofrenda for the last 2 years during Dia de los Muertos, which was really wonderful. And again, we didn't start it, we just provided a home for it. We're also, through our presenting program, often able to bring things that aren't otherwise available. We're looking at a black step dance group for January. We had Ghanaian circus this last November, and so we're able to really promote cultural and traditional arts, some of which are here and some of which are not. My favorite was Tao Dance Theater that brought some friends from the Pacific Isles to do art that was actually new. We often ask our Polynesian community to do traditional dances. They're actually creating new works. So we were able to connect with the folks that are here and say, not only can we ask them to do traditional dance, but new works that they're creating that we don't recognize and that we can embrace and discover. Engaging in community development through the arts. This is our opportunity to let the arts be a platform where neighbors can rub shoulders with neighbors, build relationships of trust, and encourage communities to come together. Conducting cultural and community assessment and planning that encourages input from community members. We're actually in the last 2 months of an arts and economic prosperity study with Americans for the Arts, which we're doing for our county. The whole state is participating, but we are coordinating efforts through our county and including all of the organizations we can get hold of in the county in that, so that we can then use that to get an indication of how we're doing. Providing stewardship of a community art collection. This is one we don't do, but we do, actually there are schools and libraries in the community that we point people to that have some of our historic art collections, and then of course Logan City has a wonderful art collection as well.
And you serve on our public art committee,
And
so there is some liaison there.
There's a relationship, even if we don't do it, we like to at least have a hand in helping. Engaging in programs that promote arts advocacy efforts at the local, state, or national level. And that's not just to get arts funding, but also to help people engage and find their way to the arts. There's wonderful data from the National Endowment for the Arts that Utah is #1 in the nation per capita for adults that engage hands-on in arts activities. I believe it. Not only that, I put Logan and Cache County up against any other county in the state per capita for adults that engage, so I think we have enough excuse to say we're the best. Providing and or supporting arts education, K-12, adult education, creative aging, etc. We're actually hosting a creative aging activity tomorrow with Stokes Nature Center. We have an organization that's all elderly, I can't say that because I'm getting close to it now. It's all, actually past it. We have an orchestra that's all adults 40 and over, and we have music for the small and tall that are wee tots, like maybe not even walking yet. So we do have activities across the gamut, and we work with the arts coordinators in the school districts and have student matinees and many other ways we support and encourage arts education. Managing a public art program, we don't do, but Logan has a magnificent one, and we do try to support it. I serve on the board there. Producing or presenting arts programs such as festivals, public art projects, community theater, concerts, workshops, etc. And through the magnificent facilities you own that we have the privilege of managing, we do a lot of that. And it's really wonderful to have that front row seat that we have to see it happen. Grant or provide financial support to cultural organizations or artists in the community. We really hadn't done until the shutdown. And then we had some private money that came forward and some wonderful donors who said, you know what's happening. If you see a need, here's some funding, make it so, make it happen and help people get back on their feet. So that was our first foray into that. It was amazing. I don't imagine it will continue, but it was really incredible to be part of. And we're so grateful for that support that came from our gracious neighbors and friends. Facilitating economic development efforts that support the creative economy through arts industries. Okay, so I have to tell you about this attorney that I met up on campus who was commuting up from Layton and working for one of our major industries. And he said, man, I hate that commute, but I can't move to Logan because I don't know if my daughters can find a dance class. And I was able to say, what do you want? Modern, ballet, ballroom, do you want Irish? I mean, I can get you anything. It's all here, just let's talk. So we do work with economic development in some ways you might not realize. Managing one or more cultural facilities in the community. Again, we manage the 3 historic cultural arts facilities that you own, and thank you for trusting us with that. Contributing to creative placemaking activities. We have this wonderful plaza that's coming about, and again, we're not doing that, right? But we were able to connect when the plans are happening for the stage with some of the technicians to say, what would you need in order to make this really work? What kinds of things would be important to you? And those conversations, I think, will enrich us all. And undertaking public relations or marketing services for local arts agency art programs and for other arts and cultural activities in the community. There's nothing we like better than bragging on our friends and getting you all to come to stuff. So I think that we do that as well. I hope you think we've matched 4 of those and that you will approve our local arts agency designation for the next 2 years. Do you have any questions of me?
How did you manage to pull off that 100-year celebration without a hitch? It was fantastic.
My goal was like that nobody lost a finger or a toe, and I think we did it. So the thing I will say about the magnificent centennial celebration, we had the Wednesday night, had more than 200 performers, more than 14 organizations, 4 conductors. And the only way that that happened was the absolute generosity of every participant in finding ways, most of them are in charge of their own things, to bend and collaborate when it was not easy. There's a reason you don't usually have a piano and dancers and a choir and an orchestra on the same stage.
But it was really fun.
But it was really fun. And we're so grateful for everybody's support and efforts in making that happen.
It was great.
Thank you.
Let's see, any other questions?
No, but I'd be happy to renew their cash arts.
I think
For
they
another
made,
2
what,
years.
4.5 of the list?
At least. Yep.
Is that something we vote on now, or?
Yeah, we can do it now if you'd
Oh,
like.
boy.
It's not required by ordinance or anything,
So we
right?
don't need to have a workshop item or anything, we can
Nope.
vote.
I think you can just do it.
So I move we approve it for 2 more years.
I'll second it.
Right,
Well,
it's
I'm
been-
on their board, so I'm gonna third it.
I'm good over here.
Abstain.
I fully support it as
You have a
well.
conflict of interest?
To compliment them? I don't get anything
Do
personal.
we need to take a vote then for this? We'll do a roll call. Mark?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Jeannie?
Aye.
Ernesto, aye.
Thank you so much.
I
Thank
wanted
you.
to say heck aye, but I don't. That's appropriate.
I wrote her and I said, huzzah, huzzah, whatever that means. That's good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I take a personal privilege? Every once in a while, you have to catch somebody doing something good. Today, I was the recipient of news that probably one of the kindest people I've ever met lives across the street. He's always serving somebody else. Today, he was getting some water coming toward his house. A policeman that happened to be going by watched Fred Jones trying to shovel. Now, this man has some health problems. The policeman stopped and shoveled it for him. Didn't need to do that. And he was so grateful. Fred called me and he says, is there some way we can celebrate this? I said, I'm gonna say something in council, so I just thought you ought to know that. This man was Davis Coppin. Let his name go down in history.
We have lots of great officers, and again, they often pitch in and do good things.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Tom. Any other
Outbursts?
impromptu, no?
No.
All right. Let's keep going with our action items. First up, we have a public hearing for Resolution 23-07. And Ross, would you like to give us a quick summary?
Yes, Council, 2 weeks ago, presented a resolution to approve fees for the Parks and Recreation Department. These were specifically for adult league basketball, that program, and also Logan Flyers Track Club, that's a youth track and field program, and also special event fee increases for food vendors that use electricity for their vendor services, and also arts and craft vendors who do the same, using electricity. Provided in that resolution packet was also comparisons that were done by the department of other like services. I think I had also mentioned at that time, because of timing in presenting this to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, which is customary for us to do so before coming to you in workshop, change in scheduling because of the state conference that we had people at was not conducted until this time between the workshop and tonight's public hearing. That has been presented to them. There was not opposition in regards to what the department was proposing. They did have the information that you have presented to them at that time. With that, I will take any questions you may have.
The only question I had was, so the special event vendor fees, is that typically things that are happening at parks, or so it's like when someone uses Willow Park, et cetera, like?
Yeah, generally it is for Pioneer Day,
Okay.
Which is a department-run event. But special event fees would apply to any of the events that occur in city parks. We'll usually go to this fee schedule should there be a vendor that is requesting electric power for either their food vending service or arts and crafts. It really depends on what the event is. The city already has a special event process for releasing permits for events, but if they do have a power need in terms of electricity, it would fall under our schedule because the schedule applies to our park reservations if the event is in a city park.
Can't remember if I asked this question last time or if you shared with us, when was the last time that these specific fees were raised?
Oh, gosh. The first time that we brought the larger group of fees before the council was in 2018, 2019. There were somewhere around 54 fees. These fees were not part of that. So my recollection doesn't, I can't give you the answer in terms of what year it was, but it would have been prior to the 2018, 2019 proposal.
Thank you.
So I asked before, and I don't know whether, did the committee make any changes when they met? Or were they happy with the?
They actually wondered if they were high enough. That was at the
yeah.
meeting.
I know, because I asked that, especially the electricity part. I wonder if they're high enough. If we're actually, I mean, are we covering the costs that are incurred?
I think what's going to happen, and I think my response to your question, because I remember your question from the workshop session, was that this is something, along with many of the other fees that we have, that we're watching closely because we're trying to get all the fee-related services on a regular schedule. There's a lot of them, and so we're having to manage how that happens. So this is a part of that. And some of this might not hit maybe that threshold of where, as we're having deliberation about it, be where it ought to be. but it's on our radar in terms of where we're watching in terms of things like utility rates, where they're going, and how services like vendors who might need to use electricity, for example, if we need to increase that, I think it'll come in short order than we perhaps have had in the past, such as 2018, 2019, when we did this comprehensive.
Yeah, I guess I'm just concerned that we're, I mean, it wouldn't take too many days for somebody to spend, have a food truck and spend the $225 and they're there for 3 or 4 days. And that gets eaten up pretty fast in electricity.
Yeah, in our instance, we haven't had, yeah, that could be. I was thinking 3 or 4 days. We don't have events that go that duration, but for some reason, I guess 3 or 4 days, I think of like Summerfest, which isn't our event, but if they were using city power, if in the future there was something of that magnitude, sure, we would probably be coming back to revisit where this is going.
Yeah, because I can see, there might be the possibility of food trucks or something related to the plaza at one point in time, and that might be a weekend event. You never know.
Is
And
this
so-
per event or per day, when people?
Per event.
Yeah,
Okay.
right now this is per event because our events are only for 1 day.
Is
So
that
if that
declared,
changes, we could bring it back and look at it again?
so that's declared or important at the time when they apply for?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, the fees are due up front at the time that we, at the time they desire to be a vendor for one of our city events. Of course, the other one that I think maybe this kind of goes back to, Jeannie, what you're saying too. There are other areas that we're studying. That's not to say that we wouldn't have events like Pioneer Day at the plaza, but plaza is one area that we're studying real closely because we want to see what becomes of that, roughly in comparison to what other events that would be like Pioneer Day.
Right. Okay, as long as you're looking at it and you're good with it now, I'm totally fine.
For now.
There might be somebody in the public that wants to talk about it. You never know.
Any other comments before we open it up? This is a public hearing. If you're here to comment, if you'd like to comment on this specific item on the agenda, please come up to the mic and state your name. Bring it back to the council.
I'll move we approve resolution 23-07.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll take roll call. Mark?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Jeannie?
Aye.
Ernesto, aye. Resolution 23-07 passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Next on our agenda is a public hearing for budget adjustments, Resolution 23-06. Rich, anything you'd like to add or summarize for this?
First item is $40,000 for IT, data network security monitoring services. This is from reserves. The other three are grants, $1,000 for the library for employee training, $14,050 for police overtime shifts, and $5,016 also for overtime shifts.
Any questions before I open it up?
Not for me.
Tom, you look like you want to ask a question.
No. I just look puzzled about other things. No, go ahead.
Mark, any questions?
No questions at the moment, but I think Rich should take about 5 more minutes to explain it to us.
I think that Mark should take what? 5 more minutes?
What did he say?
5 more minutes.
What did he say?
Rich should take 5 more minutes. I think he was
to explain
joking.
it.
Oh,
So Mark,
Yes, I was joking. I was joking.
This is a public hearing. If you would like to comment on this specific item on the agenda, please come up to the mic. Bring it back to the council.
I would move acceptance of resolution 23-06.
I'll second that.
I don't know who was faster.
Doesn't matter.
Jeannie,
Let it be
Jeannie.
Tom. Let it be Tom.
She's deferring to the
Oh
senior
my
citizen
gosh.
at the table.
What do I?
It's been moved and seconded. We'll take roll call. Mark?
Aye.
Tom?
All right.
Amy?
Aye.
Jeannie?
Aye.
Ernesto, aye. Resolution 23-06 passes. And that
Rich,
is
you
it.
get 5 more minutes.
Oh, Mark got his wish. Okay, so these, I believe all these are grants. They are, first is a rather large one, 1.8 million for CMPO funds, well, state funds through CMPO for our 12th East Global About. There is 5321 for fire department EMS grant that we received, and the last is 95,496 for alcohol enforcement shifts. That's a grant that we receive every year, usually in January, February timeframe is when we find out what it is.
So that 1.8 for from the CMPO, how much of that is covering the total project? Do we know?
Sam knows.
Just out of curiosity.
I think there are 3 funding sources at least for this.
Yeah, so we, Logan City personally, we have over 2 million budget from our accounts.
Okay.
And Utah State is also contributing. And that grant will help go towards the 1200 East roundabout at 850 North and 10th North. So we've got an agreement with DOC to kind of share some of that money. And
Okay.
both of us are happy.
You're gonna call the one the Aggie Oval, right?
We left, I am not. We didn't do that.
It's an oval about.
Yeah, we're working through design right now. We're hoping for construction next summer.
Ellipse about.
So
I
are we
think it
gonna
should be
need
a
to
bad idea.
reconfigure-
I like that.
Do we need to reconfigure around the cemetery fencing then, or is it gonna be?
Yeah, we've worked with Russ in the cemetery department that we will be impacting some EOC land and our cemetery as well.
Okay. Thanks.
Make it
Extra fee.
All right. Next, on our workshop items, we have resolution 23-09. Paul?
Maybe we'll do bidding for naming rights, if you're interested, Gina.
I think it should be called the Aggie Oval. I've thought that all along.
Get donors to feel about.
Anti-oval. Oh, Aggie oval.
We may try and come up with another shaping. It could be a peanut about, figure about,
The dog
It
bone
should be
the
event.
dog boat about.
It should have a big A in the middle.
Okay, I am going to present
Thank you.
some proposed changes to our right-of-way permit fees. Really quick, just right-of-way permits are covered in the Municipal Code, section 12.06. It says that permits are required to perform work of any kind in a public way within the city. These are just some interesting notes I pulled out of that section. There is an exemption for people doing shovel work only to install sprinklers or do landscaping. Permits are submitted to the city engineer for issuance. The fee schedule, it says, should be in the office of the Public Works Director. And it gives the opportunity for unique fees for unique projects. Permits per city code are good for 5 days or as approved by the city engineer, and extensions can be requested. But the extension cannot push it into the winter season. City permits, it says in the city code, are not required for work within a UDOT right-of-way unless that work extends outside the curb and gutter line. It doesn't say UDOT in particular, but any other jurisdictional right-of-way, unless it extends beyond the curb and gutter. So our code does allow for requiring city right-of-way permits in UDOT right-of-way where the sidewalk and park strip would be. It says that all existing improvements on public property or private property shall be restored to condition, the word it uses is comparable to existing conditions, and it must meet all standards and specifications for that work. Contractors are required to call with at least 24 hours notice to tell us they're beginning work. I note these, most of these, because they're problems we've had. So they stood out to me. It's probably why most of these made the list.
And they're required to call you, but what about notification to the
Private party.
Private party.
So another reason I put a lot of this up here is in the coming weeks, months after this, I would like to go through the municipal code. This is just the fee schedule we'll talk about tonight.
Okay.
And then I'd like to propose some updates to the code as well that may require some of those things. When we issue a permit today, we put a note in there requiring them to contact any parcel owner that they are going to work adjacent or within. So we put that as a condition of their permit approval. I have not come up with a way to confirm it's been done or to follow up with it or those kinds of things, but we do put it in there on each individual permit right now. We often have a permit issued and then 1 month to 3 years later, they'll call and say, I need my deposit refunded. And that's the first time we've heard from them since we gave the permit. And again, they're required to call and say, after getting the permit, hey, I'm starting work in 48 hours. So our inspectors can talk to them about what inspections they need and all that. And lastly, it says that any work started without a permit will require a doubling of the permit fee to be charged. So just some notes from there that I want to make. Secondly, right-of-way permits, to give you an idea, there's some numbers of permits issued over the last 5 years. You can see a pattern of increasing. I truly was surprised by 2022 numbers. I didn't realize it was lower than the previous 2 years. And my 550 projection is, I don't have enough time to make a good projection, but we start issuing permits March 15th. So we've had 3 weeks, we've issued 71.
Holy cow.
If I use those numbers, it would put us closer to 700. But I think there's a lot of permits that we're waiting for winter to end. And so we do get a lot right at the beginning. So that's just a guess, but I think it'll be 500 or more.
So did it say they have a certain length of time to complete the work?
Per city code, it's 5 days or as approved in the permit.
Okay.
And they're supposed to be required to give their estimated start date and completion date
So
when they apply.
So those 71 should already be done?
If they were more than 5 days ago or the time approved, yes.
And I bet they're not.
Some of them probably have been. A lot of them are smaller.
Oh, okay.
We get permits again for anything in the right of way, from a 2 to 3 mile road reconstruction being done by Logan City Public Works, the contractor ought to get a permit, all the way to a building lifting a new air conditioning unit on the top, and the crane needs to sit in the right of way for 2 hours to do that work. It covers everything under that permit.
Okay.
Every one of those permits requires review for traffic control, private property and easement encroachment, insurance requirements, fees to be charged, and proper contractor licensing through DOPL. We review all those things for each and every permit. All those inspections, every one of those permits are assigned an inspector. We have 2 public works inspectors, and our blue stakers will help cover some of the smaller permits when they have time. And again, inspections and refunds are based on the contractor calling and notifying that the work is either started or completed. One thing I've started doing lately is working with our legal department. We have a lot of permits that get issued and we never hear after that time whether it was started, completed, anything, and we have a deposit sitting there. Some of those have been years and years and years old. We've been working to clean that out, and so wherever I can, I've been now saying if you never called for an inspection or anything, you forfeit your deposit. It's been helping a little bit, but
Well, it seems to me
sometimes the
they should have
deposit
to,
isn't big enough.
seems like they should have to call you when they start and when they finish.
They are required to.
Well, no, there's an or there. Not an and.
It should be an and, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Or code, they're required to.
Okay.
But
One of
doesn't
the
mean they
challenge-
do.
One of the challenges has been just the follow-up to make sure that everything gets followed. So you, council will see that as you begin to get into the budget workshops. Again, we're hoping that with these new right-of-way permit fees, that we will have enough funding to hire an additional inspector. So if council chooses to, it's just kind of a little heads up, but we're trying to address the problem in that way. So you'll get a chance to take a look at that and give your yay or nay.
So you, in your packet, you have this document that is the change to the fees. Section 12 of the municipal code spells out what the fees should cover. It lists actual cost to review the permit, approve it, all the documentation comes with it, plus any inspection of the work, and then it also includes diminution. That was a new word for me. Did I get it right, Mo?
Yes, it is.
Diminution of any of our assets, including utilities, asphalt, public property, for the lifespan of that property. And then the deposit that's required should equal the risk of that work, either not being done or needing to be done by the city because they don't do it correctly. And I didn't look, I apologize, but I know it's been at least 10 years since these fees were adjusted, but I didn't go back and find the exact date to give you an idea. So I'll run through it real quick. You can see 3 of those have edits to them. There were only 4 fees in the old schedule. You had a basic permit fee of $150. You had a, what was called a road cut fee of $1,000. And then each of those had a deposit with them. The basic being $500 and the road cut being $1,000. So the edits, increasing the basic permit fee to $200, leaving the basic permit fee deposit at $500, changing the title of this road cut to just standard permit and making it a $1,500 fee, and raising the deposit from $1,000 to $3,000.
Wait a minute, there's a new road cut permit fee.
Correct. So those are all the previous fees that I adjusted. Everything else you see up there is a new fee being proposed tonight, including the boring permit, the new road cut fee, the lane closure, sidewalk closure, and all that.
What's the difference between the basic permit fee and the standard permit?
So some of the
other than price?
definitions
Okay.
for those fees, a basic permit fee would only be applicable if it included the disturbance of no asphalt or concrete, including sidewalk and curb and gutter. It was only landscaping or gravel shoulder of a road, and it could only be on one parcel of land, not across several parcels. Any of those outside of that would bump it to a standard permit fee. The reason being, I was trying to allow a basic permit fee for when a single property owner wants to replace their driveway, or excuse me, they're behind the sidewalk, maybe they're doing their driveway, or they're doing some landscaping or an irrigation system that involves equipment digging, trenching, those sort of things. That wasn't a huge fee. But if it went to more than one property, or if it included asphalt, curb gutter, sidewalk, then it would go to the standard permit fee. Any of the fees were created by taking the time it takes us to review the permit, do the inspections, all those things. I wasn't sure how to include diminution of public property, but tried to. So the fees were mostly to cover our costs. And then again, the deposits. I'll talk about the boring, and also these fees could be, more than one could apply. For example, if a company was going to come dig up the asphalt, it was standard road cut
fee would apply, excuse me, what's called a standard permit fee would apply. And from that excavation, they were going to bore out for a block or two and install some conduits. A boring permit fee would also apply. And then if they were going to close a road for longer than 5 days, then a lane closure fee would apply as well. So there could be multiple fees stacking as they do that work.
Is there an exciting permit fee?
Pardon?
Is there an exciting permit fee?
An exciting one?
Because there's a boring one.
The meeting's gone too long.
I clearly used the word boring too often because that was right up here.
So what's a pothole only fee?
Sometimes we'll get applications for a boring company that's coming in and doing a plan for their work. So they're gonna come do a pothole, it's typically 8 inches around, where then they suck out with a hydro excavation to find a utility. So then they can do their design of how deep to go with their non-exciting work.
Okay.
And also a boring company may come in and just have no asphalt disturbance, they're just working from park strip to park strip. But they're required by Blue Stakes of Utah to actually excavate at those utility crossings.
Okay.
They don't always do it, they're supposed to per Blue Stake law. And so then they would be doing a pothole,
Okay.
but that'd be their only asphalt disturbance. So it would apply to a boring permit and a pothole fee in that case.
Okay.
A couple of things I want to point out with the deposit. One problem we have had is when the larger companies in particular will come and do work and not call us and tell us, the deposit hasn't been large enough to get them to come back and clean up the work or to meet the specifications. They can sacrifice $500 on a job and just walk away. We've had the same problem with $1,000. I have seen other cities that are charging, the highest I've seen is $5,000. This would apply to any of those $3,000 deposits you see. Those all impact the roadway. Generally, I've seen them anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. If that's something you felt we need to adjust up, we certainly could. But that's some information that I've seen other cities charging on that.
Well, it seems to me that we need to charge enough that if we have to fix whatever it is that they have destroyed, we have enough money to do that.
Correct.
So.
It occurs to me, for example, I'm driving along 6th East and my family says, why is it so bumpy? So I'm just thinking about this, the road cut. Okay, so you get a road cut and somebody comes back and puts in the asphalt and they haven't compacted the soil sufficiently or whatever. But now we have a dip or we have a bump. So who's doing quality control on road cuts? Because it seems like they've gotten out of hand in certain places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not smooth.
The answer to your question would be those 2 inspectors that I listed. They're doing all the quality control for every permit.
But you're saying that sometimes the job is finished and the inspectors haven't even been called on it.
Correct. At that point, oftentimes my only retribution is to keep their deposit. And so we do that.
How often do you, I mean,
A lot more now than we used to. We're doing it regularly right now.
Will that deposit pay for a quality redoing of that instead of having a bump or a dip?
It depends, again, because it goes from a very small project to a large one. So I've tried to find an average or a happy medium, and that's kind of the goal with the 3,000. Again, I think that could go up a little. It was just a large increase. But to do a road patch of any significance is going to be at least $2,000 to $4,000, especially if you're re-excavating and recompacting the base.
Okay.
So I guess I would raise those to $5,000.
And I certainly can. I want to come and present that tonight. I am certainly open to your thoughts and would love to hear Some of the new ones, also the narrow trench fee, that's a newer construction method where they'll come, it's called a micro trench or a narrow trench, but it's typically about 2 inches wide is all, 1 to 3 inches, and it's anywhere from 6 to 14 inches deep. And they're just putting in about a 3/4 inch conduit, mostly for telecommunications, fiber optic lines. We have a company that's working through our franchise agreement right now, and that's the method they'd like to use. And so we've visited other cities and seen it, tried to get comfortable with it. We're currently developing a standard specification for that construction in the right of way that they would have to follow. But we did not have a fee really that would have covered that at all. And so I put that in. It would include a standard permit and a narrow trenching fee per lineal foot of trench. I found 2 cities within Utah that have a micro trench fee. One of them was 60 cents a foot, and the other one was 45 cents a foot, to give you an idea. And then I tried to, as best I can, compare if a contractor came and did that with either boring method or traditional excavation or narrow trench, how would those fees compare with each other? And they're in the range. They're not perfect, but it's hard, again, with the wide variety of applications we receive.
So how many times has it happened that somebody just says, I'm not gonna get a permit, and they don't get caught? Because that would be my concern with raising the deposit too much, is that then people try to backdoor it and not have to apply.
How many times do they not get caught? I have no idea.
But again, he has, I mean, it's like if they do start without a permit, it's doubled, so there is some increased risk.
And we've been doing that a lot more. A lot of times that wasn't applied as long as we could just get them to come get a permit. And lately I've been doing every one of them. If they started before it was issued, we've charged them double.
Is there any way to make them post the permit on the site?
I'm sure we could require that sometimes.
Because I think that, you know, I mean, a lot of times people will go, what in the heck, they're digging all over town and they're doing this and they're doing that, and they're putting these great big, you know, plastic things in the park strip, and we don't know who they are and we don't know what they're doing, but if they had to, you know, have a permit posted on the site somehow, that might alleviate some of, you know, it would encourage them to have a permit.
Yeah, that's something we could look at with the municipal code or otherwise.
Yeah, I don't know, you know.
Some of these they'll cover 3 miles. And, you know, you post it at a location. Majority
Or they had to post
small.
it as they did the work. You know,
Yeah.
if they did 3 miles, they posted it for the first, and they moved it as they did the work, unless they did all 3 at once.
Right. For example, a SWIP document, stormwater, is required to be posted on jobs over an acre in size or something like that. It'd be a similar requirement, I guess. I remember when that was new, that was the big thing is, where do I post this?
Right.
You know, like a building permit, it goes on the building.
Right.
Anyway, that could be overcome.
But it might be, you know, it might be something that would add a level of compliance
Right.
to the permit holders.
The lane closure and sidewalk fee, I'll mention in the definition, I've got those would apply to anything beyond the code granted 5 days. So if they get the work done in 2 or 3 days, they wouldn't have to pay that fee necessarily. But we've had a problem in the past where we haven't. I'm also going to be redoing the application so we get the information we need. But a job will start and then all of a sudden 30 days later, we're saying, why isn't this done yet? I'm trying to find a way to encourage that and better track it. And this is one of the ways.
Okay. You took on a big project.
Yes. I've had encouragement from a few property owners as well, which has been good.
Is the $75 inspection fee the last one per hour, 2-hour minimum, is that 75 per hour, or is that 75 for 2 hours?
It would be 75 per hour.
Okay.
And that would only be for work outside of our normal business hours. Inspections within our business hours are included in the permit fees, but they are often, especially on a UDOT road, required to do night work and sometimes weekend work, or a contractor will just say, you know, he's trying to get that work done and things didn't go smoothly. It extended till 7 or 8 p.m. till he was done. And so we weren't able to do the inspection till 7 or 8 p.m. We'd like a way to recover some of that overtime cost and those sort of things.
Well, it encourages them to get done on time.
I should have put this up there so you can look at it. I just tried to come up with some examples of permits we see and the old fee versus the new fee. It's hard because, again, there's so many examples, but I've got the first two would just be a homeowner calling a contractor to fix, say, a leaking water service or a broken sewer lateral. One would not involve asphalt and curb gutter. The second one would, is the only difference in those first two. So you can see the new fee would be in the first case, the $200 fee and the $500 deposit. And I see that those are going to be fairly rare, those basic permit fees. They're typically an owner doing his own work is what we see. The second one would be the $1,500 fee and the $3,000 deposit. If that included a sidewalk closure beyond 5 days, there would be the additional sidewalk closure fee. If that included inspection outside of the hours, they'd include that as well on top of that. The third one would be a boring company installing a ½ mile of conduit with no asphalt removal. We see those quite often, a long boring project with no asphalt removal. Previously, it was only a $150 fee and a $500 deposit. Those were the ones that were a real problem. Now you'd see a
They're
$400.
giving me a hard time about exciting.
I'll try and come up with another term and change the industry. That would be a $400 fee and a $3,000 deposit, plus if they end up removing asphalt, there would be a $1,500 fee on top of that, plus any potholes and those other fees.
So what if they were doing 3 miles of conduit?
Under the fee structure, it wouldn't change other than if they had additional asphalt cuts. It's $1,500 per asphalt cut, so that would hit it. And if there were more potholes, but it wouldn't change anything on the fee.
So they could just go under the street without any disturbance?
Correct.
And it would not, they'd only have to pay $400?
Correct.
Wow, that just seems...
And the only difference, 'cause I've thought through that scenario a lot, is our fees are to recover our cost.
Right.
And there wouldn't be any increased cost other than maybe a little additional review time of the application.
Well, the inspections are
There
going
may be some additional inspections, and I'm trying to balance that between small projects and huge, but there may be some additional inspections.
What if they hit somebody else's pipes while they're boring?
And then the third one is the deposit. Obviously, they're going to cross more utilities. And so I don't know how you balance that with more risk and more deposit. And if you change that and say, here's a small, medium, large deposit, but that's the biggest one to me is the risk, and typically it's risk to private utilities. They hit city ones as well, but the biggest one we see is sewer laterals, which are private, things like that. So I'm not sure how to balance that with that deposit specifically.
Or even the fee. The fee to me seems low because it can be, I mean, when you look at the $1,500 fee for the contractor who was doing one site, and then you've got the company installing a ½ mile of conduit or more, and the fee is...
And again, the biggest thing that hits that is that diminution of our asphalt roadway.
Right.
Where the boring job for 3 miles wouldn't do that if they didn't hit the asphalt.
Well, I mean, but they hit everybody's driveway in a half mile, they're gonna hit driveways,
But they don't, they go under it.
theoretically.
True.
They don't crack it, they don't, I mean, but
Yeah,
it just, anyway, it just seems like
yeah.
not a lot.
We did say that the standard, like multiple parcels would trigger the standard fee.
Correct.
So that might help that.
That's true. In the case of any of those, half mile or 3 mile, they would be paying a standard permit fee as well because they're crossing more than one parcel. Sam's,
Oh, okay.
Sam's got a
Okay.
good point there.
Okay,
So it would apply.
all right.
So it'd be 1,900 in that case. Anyway, I don't know if there's any other examples. There's a lot of them out there. Sam had actually worked up a sheet of like, we pulled 30?
Yeah.
30 random permits from last year and tried to run them through this same scenario of old and new and just to get a random assortment. I'd be happy to share that with you.
I
But
thought maybe he pulled 30 of them just to find out whether they were completed, whether they still had a deposit.
no, actually Sharon does that with every one of them.
So,
It is a huge part of her work.
yeah, that, I mean, definitely is a full-time job.
Yeah. Any questions or suggestions, please, over the next 2 weeks? You're welcome to send me any questions or thoughts. But I'll be back in 2 weeks if you don't have any now. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
And I did mean to imply that Public Works was not exciting. It's scintillating.
I know what I do. You don't have to apply it.
Next, for our workshop items, we have a few ordinances presented by our Assistant City Attorney, Hamid.
Yeah, so these ordinances are pretty minor changes. The first one, the telecommunications right-of-way ordinance, we made this change because we had a company who was going through our franchising process who brought it to our attention that they would not be considered a telecommunications company at the federal level. And they wanted us to revise our right-of-way ordinance in a way that kind of favored them. Didn't want to do that, so we just, or even make a new, information services, what they're called, ordinance. But we decided to just amend our telecommunications right-of-way ordinance, include information services, call it a day. So they'll have to comply with our right-of-way ordinance when or if they get a franchise in the state.
They didn't want to, right?
They were comfortable with, complying with it. They just wanted, at least this is what they told us. We're comfortable complying with the ordinance, but we're not considered telecommunications. So why don't we work on getting a information services ordinance? Didn't want to open that door. It's easier to just have them comply with our telecommunications right-of-way ordinance and include information services.
Okay.
And up until 2012, they were considered a telecommunications service. In 2012, the FCC changed the definition slightly. It was mostly semantics to call them an information services company. And we don't know if that's going to happen again. So this is much easier way to address this.
I agree with that.
Then the telecommunications tax rate, it was changed in, I think it was 2021, from 4% down to 3.5, so we just made that change. And what I did is I cited to that code section directly so that if it changes again, we don't need to amend our ordinance, we just go back to the code and see what it is.
Did you add, does that apply to the information services as well?
No, it doesn't. The state code is only telecommunication services. It doesn't apply to information services. And then the anti-idling ordinance is also a very small change. It went from requiring 3 warnings before you could impose a fine to requiring only 1 warning before you can impose a fine.
Right. Question?
And so we did not see the code changes from community development as action items because they're all on vacation? Okay.
It's spring break, so a lot of people were out of town.
Yes, they are.
Mark, any questions?
Are you still awake out there, Mark?
If he's not awake,
May
he
have
won't
gotten-
answer
May
you.
have gotten dropped during the workshops.
Maybe it was too boring for him.
Yeah,
Oh.
you got her back.
Any other considerations?
I just wanted to draw people's attention. They are in the process of trying to identify the future of high-speed internet in our county. There is a Utah internet speed test that people can take. Apparently, there still need at least 920 more speed tests done in our county by April 28th. And the reason they're doing this is it could involve the bringing of federal funds to our county for accessing high-speed internet.
So if you want to have your internet speed tested, how do you go about doing
There
that?
is a website that you go to, and it's speedtest.utah.gov. And you just click on it, and it'll take you through the steps. It's pretty easy to do. Pardon?
Download some Russian software.
Yes. The government is asking us to do this. Come on. But also, too, just as an FYI, if you are a low-income household, you can get up to $30 off your monthly internet bill. Visit the Affordability Connectivity Program. It's acp.utah.gov. So for those members of our community who could qualify for that, I would encourage them
Would
to
it
go and do
be,
that.
would it be possible for us to put that, the $30 reduction piece at least on our website? You know, that it's available
Or
at
do a
this,
Facebook, social media post on it, or?
would that be possible?
Let's see, where it's not a city thing. We can discuss that. Let's see.
Yeah.
I think there's probably many people in our,
Hope some of- okay,
that might qualify for that.
take a look. Let's see. Okay, we'll look at that. Council
All right.
wants to-
He's reaching for the gavel.
Our meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, Ernesto.
Thank you, everyone.